Welcome everyone to our 2026 digital marketing planning workshop. And this is for you if you run a plumbing, HVAC, electrical, or home service company, and you're starting to think about 2026. You're starting to think, I want to set some clear goals. I want to set some clear targets, and I want to really engineer my marketing plan, my marketing strategy to bring that into reality. If that's you, just type me into the chat as you're watching this. That way I know we're talking to the right people and we're going to use this time as efficiently and effectively as possible. Here's my plan, and I'm going to try and execute on all of these key objectives today. We've got some great new resources we're going to be sharing with you. I've been doing this planning workshop for going on 10 years now, and every year I try and add something to make it a little bit better, a little bit smoother for you as you look to implement these ideas. So first and foremost, we're going to make sure we've got clear goals and targets for the year. Some of you guys probably already set these goals. Just type clear in the chat if you've already got this. And if not, we're going to spend a little bit of time helping to make that even clearer for you. More important than that, I think a lot of people do set goals and targets, whether they're loose or written down. But more important than that is I want to help you figure out what the KPIs are that will bring that into reality. I think a lot of us set a goal. Yeah, I want to do whatever, 2 million next year. I want to do 5 million next year. But then that's about it. Let's figure out what those KPIs, those key performance indicators are going to be. How many leads, average cost per lead, marketing breakdown in order to bring that in to reality. Type KPI. If you're okay, if we break that down, we chunk that down a little bit, because when we're clear and we break that down, we can organize our entire strategy around bringing that into existence. And then we're going to map out the plan. There's a million different things we can do to market our plumbing, HVAC, home service companies, online, offline. And sometimes it gets confusing, it gets chaotic. It's like there's so many different things I can be doing. What should I be spending my money on? Where should I be investing my energy? And so we're going to help you get clear on what the key initiatives are, how you stack them, and how we want to prioritize those strategies, whether you're going to be doing in-house or whether you're going to be subcontracting or you're going to be working with a company like ours to help you execute this for you. And so that's going to break down. We're going to spend a little bit of time helping you figure out if the goal is to get to here, then how much do I need to spend in order to bring that into reality? So what's the budget? What are the channels, right? Which ones should I be investing in? And how do I carve up those dollars as efficiently as possible? So the channels. And then I'm going to also talk about some of the important trends. This is a new year. There's a lot of different things happening in the AI space, in the digital marketing ecosystem. And I'll be talking about some of those trends so that you can be aware, and ideally so that you can be on the cutting edge and ahead of that going into 2026. And most importantly, the goal is to help set you up to crush it in 2026 and beyond. So this is going to be very workshop oriented. I put together a workbook, and I want you to open this up right now. There's no login for this or anything. If you go to plumberseo.net/2026, plumberseo.net/2026, that should redirect you to a Google Doc. I found for these Zoom type webinars, it's best just to use a Google Doc. That way you can edit it, you can work from it, and it just makes your lives much easier. And so I'm going to give you guys all a moment to pull that up, and I'll share my screen because it's going to say make a copy, and some people get confused by that. I want this to be your Google Doc, not my Google Doc. So this is a planning document that was put together exclusively for you. And so what I want you to do is when you go to that URL, plumberseo.net/2026, it's going to ask if you want to make a copy. So hit yes, make a copy, and then you will get this Google Doc like this that you can work from and have all of the links and have all the checklists and everything you need in order to really make this an effective use of everybody's time. So if that's clear and you were able to open up, just type open in the chat. Just, okay, I got my workbook. I've got it open here. Ideally, you've got me on Zoom, and then you've got another tab opened up where you've got this Google Doc that you're going to be able to track along with. Sheila, Ian, some of the others I know you guys are on. Okay. Bob Hov, sounds like you got it open. If you didn't get it open, just put a 1 in the chat if there's an issue. You're like, hey, I can't quite figure this out. Otherwise, I don't want to spend too much time, but I do want to make sure you got it. Okay. Christina's got it open. Laura's got it open. Sheila got it open. Okay, fantastic. If you get stuck, message Nick. Nick is on here with me. He's part of the Plumbing HVAC SEO team. He can help you get this open. But just know, so I'm going to use this as I speak. You're going to have some exercises. You're going to have some links that I want you to open up. And so just know that's at plumberseo.net/2026. Jim's got a problem. Nick, if you could just personal message Jim.
Yeah.
Could be that you're not logged in on Google. For some reason, you don't have a Google Workspace account. Okay, Jim's in. Okay, I think we're good. Please feel free to reach out. We do want you guys to be able to get the most out of today's session, and that comes along with you guys actually having access to this workbook. I've also developed some brand new worksheets. In the past, I've driven this predominantly on Google Sheets. I found that the sheets were great, the formulas were great, but sometimes you guys got lost, you got confused. And so I'm really excited. We've got a simple lead generation target calculator we're going to be sharing with you guys. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to figure out how many leads you're going to need in order to hit your sales and revenue targets. And then we've got a marketing budget planner, also a web-based that, it'll help you figure out, okay, I want to get there. How much do I need to spend? And it'll help you really segment where those dollars need to go. And stick with me. We're going to make this very practical and very simple for you to get massive clarity on how you're going to accomplish your goals here in 26 with your digital marketing plan. Real quick, for those of you that don't know, my name is Josh Nelson. I'm the founder of Plumbing and HVAC SEO. Been in this business since 2011, so quite some time in the digital marketing space. I'm really active in a lot of the plumbing, HVAC, home service organizations like Nexstar, Service Roundtable, QSC, PHCC, CEO Warrior. If you happen to belong to any of those groups, drop it into the chat. It's always good to know who's a CEO Warrior and who's a Nexstar member and who's a QSC member. Our team is actually in field today. So a lot of our team members are at the service world for Service Roundtable. A lot of Service Nation has their big event going on right now, and also a big event for Nexstar as well. Let me know in the chat, just to love to know. But so we're really active in those organizations. I'm the author of this book, How to Triple Your Sales by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. Oops, knocked over my for plumbing, HVAC, home service contractors. And it's one of the top books on digital marketing for plumbing and HVAC and home service companies. But I'd say more important than any of that stuff is, at this point, I've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, electrical, home service contractors in some of the most competitive markets across the country. And we've seen many of them go from very little presence online, very little results, to being the dominant players in their markets. Many of them seeing literally millions and millions of dollars in revenue growth. Many of them getting hundreds and thousands of leads directly from the internet every single month. Our latest calculation, 29 of our clients have been acquired by public equity over the last 5 years. And so what I share with you isn't based on theory. It's not based on hype. It's not based on something that I read online somewhere. This is based on real world, year after year, implementing these strategies for companies just like yours. And we're on a mission to help 1,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical companies triple their sales by getting their internet marketing right. And that's what we do. We got a full team of people that live this, eat this, breathe this. And so if you need some help implementing these strategies, we'd love the opportunity to talk with you. If you're already a client with me today, we appreciate your business. But I just want you to know this is not a veiled sales presentation. This is going to be very useful. This is going to be very practical. And we want to see you win. We want to see you get better success in 2026. However, if you would like some help with this and you'd like to schedule a free 2026 plan session, we'll meet with you one-on-one and evaluate your current online marketing strategy, evaluate your current website SEO page strategy. You can schedule a complimentary session at plumberseo.net/schedule. And Nick just dropped that into the chat as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get to work. Let's really dive in to this 2026 marketing plan. And I want to start by talking about some of the key trends you want to be thinking about, that you want to be aware of as we go in to the new year. And I'd love to know if you're worried at all about AI, you're worried about the changes in the algorithm, just type worried in the chat. Because I know sometimes when there's change, that creates concern, it creates worry. Maybe you're worried about all of the acquisition and roll-up that's happening in the industry, right? A lot of these companies in plumbing, HVAC, home services are getting swallowed up, and the PE firms are consolidating their spend, and they're being even more aggressive than ever with their marketing strategy. Jim says, semi-concerned. I'm just going to share some of the key trends I want you to be aware of. Number one is that there is a massive increase in the popularity of generative tools, commonly referred to as AI chat engines. And so where over the last 10, 15 years, it was almost exclusively that when someone needed your services, they would go online to Google, right? That was like the lion's share there's still people using Nextdoor and Angie and Thumbtack and all of these different platforms, but Google was almost it. There's a new player that's really emerged, and that's ChatGPT, and it's Claude, and it's Perplexity. And so we need to make sure, as we're thinking about 2026, we're not focused exclusively on Google, but we're also looking at those other generative engines. So that's one really important trend. And I'll talk more about that as we go in today's session when we talk about search engine optimization specifically. This is a big trend that you want to be aware of. The other really big trend is online scheduling. And like it or not, your consumer is more and more conditioned to not call in, but just to get things done on an app or to schedule directly online. As an example, most of your more affluent customers, when they want groceries today, they're no longer driving out to Publix and getting out of the car and walking through the aisles and pulling this stuff off and going home. They're literally going to the app, they're picking the 12 items that they want, and they expect someone to go out and get it for them and bring it to their home, right? That's how things have moved. And so if you give them the option to schedule directly online and pick a day and pick a time and just have your technician show up and do the work, that removes friction. It makes it easier for them. And so if you haven't already put some type of online scheduling function on your website, you're giving yourself a massive disadvantage. I'll talk more about this when we talk about how to optimize your website for conversion and leverage marketing automation. But online scheduling, in my mind, is a must if you want to win in 2026. And you want to give yourself the lowest cost per lead possible. Number 3 is two-way text messaging and online chat. Your customer today, if they were given the option to text with you or to call and speak to somebody at your office and explain their problem and then give their address and give all of these details on the phone, they consider their time at a premium. And if they're given the option to text with you and just answer a couple questions, give you their address, and know that your technician's going to show up, that would be their preference. And so number 1 would be online scheduling, but number 2 definitely would be give them the option to two-way text message with you. This technology exists. A lot of it can be automated, and it creates a better experience for your client, and it creates less resistance for them to just do business with you. Now, with all of these trends, I'm not saying that you don't want a live answer. I'm not saying that you don't want to optimize for phone calls as well, but just recognize where things are headed. There's a certain portion of your client base, your prospect base, that would much prefer these more advanced options to book their job and to get their problem solved. Number 4 is speed to lead, especially for the people that are filling in web forms or requesting information or scheduling directly online. If you or somebody in the office isn't following up quickly in the ways that they want to be followed up with, they're probably going to wind up going somewhere else. They're going to hit the back button, they're going to call the next contractor, and you're going to miss that opportunity. And AI technology exists now where some contractors, especially the larger PE firms, are doing this. They're putting automations in place where when a request comes in, a phone call, a text message, and an email go out instantaneously, and they know the outcomes of those opportunities, and they've got automation in place to move those people forward. I'm going to be talking more about this as we go, but really important, if you're not leveraging some type of marketing automation in the way that you follow up with the leads that you're generating, and the way you follow up with your one-time customer to convert them into a repeat buyer, that's a really important trend you want to be paying attention to. And then number 5, I think a big trend going into 2026 is around using video-based content. Like really making your organization, making your team as authentic and real as possible. Because right now we can use ChatGPT, we can use Claude to crank out hundreds and hundreds of pages of content, literally thousands of words. And so the internet for home services content is just becoming overwhelming. And your customer may or may not know, but okay, that was probably written by AI. The one thing that you can't replace right now with AI is authenticity. And so to the extent that you or somebody on your team can show up on video and address their challenges, or address why they might want to choose you versus the competition, you can stand out from all of the AI generated content that's being spun up and being generated. So I could go on with a lot more trends, but I think these are the top 5 I really wanted to feature as we think about 2026. We think about some of the changes we definitely need to be paying attention to. Now, number 6 that didn't get a bullet on here, but I think it's important, if we know that people are using ChatGPT and they're using other generative engines, and they may actually speak to ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm looking for a good plumbing contractor in my area. Who would you recommend? And ChatGPT is processing that request and it's spitting out results. And I'm going to show you how you can gauge how you're coming up with those results and how you can optimize to show up. The other really important thing that I've heard is that ChatGPT is aligning with Thumbtack to supply those inquiries to contractors. I think so that they can monetize that through Thumbtack. So you want to be looking at Thumbtack, and maybe if they wind up going with Angie or one of these other platforms, you want to make sure you've got those profiles optimized so that you can be in the lead flow for those opportunities as well. Doesn't have a bullet because I don't have all the details about it yet, but I do want to set that precedence. So that's where I think things are headed. First and foremost, as we go into 2026, most important thing is clarity. Let's get super clear where we're going to be by the end of the year, because with clarity, we can go out and build an action plan. I'm a big fan of Brian Tracy. I'm not sure how many of you guys type Brian Tracy if you've ever listened to a Brian Tracy audio, gone to one of his seminars, studying any of his books. He's got a great book called The Ultimate Goal Setting Program. And this is a little bit old material, but it still rings true. And he was studying some of the most successful business owners in the country and really looking at what the difference between the successful ones and the unsuccessful ones were. And what he found was most successful companies have massive clarity from one year to the next, from one quarter to the next, from 1 month to the next, in terms of where they're going. And there was a great quote in there, and it was that success is goals, all else is commentary. And so what that means to me is, to the extent you don't have a clear goal that's like present for you, present for your team, everybody knows exactly what the destination is, you're going to get busy, but you're going to get busy in commentary. You're going to be spinning your wheels in some regard. And so the fact that we're going to spend some time getting super clear on these goals is massively important, because without a clear goal and a clear target written down, we wind up the sailboat out at sea. Like you may not be going where you want to go. You may not be going very fast, but the second we create clarity, we set those goals, we set those targets, we can create momentum in the direction that we want to go. And so getting into our workbooks here, there's a couple things I want you guys to do. And if you don't have this up, you can go to plumberseo.net/2026. For those of you that have it open, I just want you to open up that separate tab and I want you to pull it up, and we're going to look at this together. Nick, thanks for dropping that in. Vince, yes, studying Brian Tracy for psychological stuff. Love it. I'm going to share the screen. And the first thing I want you guys to write down is a current snapshot. So as we enter 2026, where do we sit today? And there's just a couple data points I'd like you to write down in your workbooks there. What's your average monthly revenue? Like how much revenue is the business generating on average today? How many jobs are you running on a typical month? What's the typical number of jobs being run on a consistent basis? And then other metrics that are going to help us form some of the planning that we're going to do. What's your average transaction value when you get a client? If you look at all the revenue generated divided by all of the service calls, all of the jobs run, what's your average ticket? And then also important, what's your average conversion from a lead? Hey, I'm interested in what you guys do, to a book job. And then from a book job to a sale. Very important that we know those numbers. And I'd also like to know how many trucks you have right now in the business today. And so that's right there on page 3 in your workbook. Again, this is workshop oriented, so I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes. Just fill that in. Hopefully you have this data at your fingertips. If you don't know the exact numbers, that's okay. Put what you think it is, and then it may be worth spending a little bit of time after the fact researching and running some numbers and really knowing these numbers well. And so as you fill that in, I'd love for each of you one easy number for you to give me is how many trucks? Like how many trucks do you have in the business right now? Let me know that in the chat here as you're filling this in your worksheets. So while you're filling that in, Sheila's got 9. Nice. Excellent. Great operation. I'm going to share my screen. That way I know that you guys are looking at what I'm referring to here. Jim's got 5. Excellent. Okay. That's just what I'm talking about, your 2026 plan. What's the average monthly recurring revenue, average jobs, other key important metrics. Let's get those numbers in, locked and loaded. Awesome. Okay. I think I've given you guys enough time on that particular front. The next thing I want you to do is let's call our shot. Let's say, hey, here's where we're headed as a company in 2026. What's the annual revenue target? Like, how much revenue are you looking to generate? And then how many trucks would you like to have? Sometimes that's an important metric. Sometimes you don't really care about how many trucks, but I'd love to know for you, what's that annual revenue target? And if you feel so bold, drop that into the chat for me. That way I have some idea where you're looking to go in 2026. And if you haven't spent some time thinking about this and you haven't discussed it with the team, you don't have buy-in with the others, really important, right? This is something you want to really think through. And don't say, if you're doing 2 million right now, don't say, hey, we're going to 10, right? Choose a number that's realistic. That's okay. Based on where we're at today and based on how we're trending, I truly believe we can get to this level next year. Jim, 2.5 million. Love that. Perfect. And then the other important thing, as we said, goals and targets, is why. I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he's got the ultimate success formula. And what he says is, to succeed in anything in life, the first and foremost thing is to get clear on what you want. What does success look like for you? Second thing is to get really excited about the why. Like, why is that important, right? Because if you just said, Vincent, I wanted to get to 1.5 million and add 2 more trucks, that's great. But why? How will your life be different and better? The clearer you are on the why, the more excited you are about, yes, I want that because I'll be able to retire my spouse, or I'll be able to buy that dream house, or I'll be able to do whatever it is that gets you excited. That's how you create some energy behind these goals and these targets. Laura says 3.5 last year, 14 trucks, 450 jobs last month, getting to 4.5. Beautiful. So Laura, perfect example. We know we want to get to 4.5. That's well within reason based on the growth trajectory within the organization. Just think about why. Well, that's an additional $1 million in revenue, maybe an additional $250,000 to $300,000 in profitability within the organization, ideally. Like, how does that make life different and better? And then as you think about that why on page 3, I want you to think, and all of you guys, I want you to answer this for me. How committed are you on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being, I don't really care, but I'm just writing a number down, 10 being like, I'm completely committed to do whatever it takes to bring that into reality. What's the number for you? Could be a 7, could be a 5. What Tony Robbins will say about this is you got to know your why. You got to get really passionate and excited about how that's going to make your life different and better. And you got to commit your energy on a daily basis at a 10 that you're going to like really bring that into existence. Okay, cool. Let me know for you, how committed are you to really bring that into reality? So this is the first piece, right? We've got our goal. We know where we're trying to get to by the end of the year. Now what I want to do is bring the calculator into the mix, and this will help you really make this practical. And what I want you to do in your workbook there's a link that tells you to go to calculator.plumberseo.net. I'm going to pull this up live. I'm really excited about this because the team and I have spent a lot of time trying to make this as practical and easy to fill in as possible. And so let me share my screen here. I've got it open. And then this isn't a hard exercise. These aren't hard numbers to calculate, but it can create massive clarity for you in terms of what needs to be done. And so I'm going to pull up, because Laura typed in her numbers. This would be a great case study. Laura, feel free to type into the chat if you've got additional details. But the target, and this is what I want you to do, you're basically just going to fill in a couple of fields here. The goal for next year, whatever that is. So in Laura's case, it's 4.5 million. Oops, not 45 million, but 4.5 million. And then average transaction value is, actually, if you could, let me know what the average transaction value is. 790. Perfect, Laura. All right, cool. With those two fields, we can know, okay, so if the goal is to get to 450, how much revenue do we need to generate on a month? And I know some months are higher season, some months are lighter, but on an average, we need to get about $375,000 in monthly revenue to be on pace for 4.5 million. And then it's going to divide the average transaction value by the revenue amount and tell us how many jobs we need to generate. So you could call this book jobs, you could call this sold jobs, you could call this whatever you want to call it, but you need 475-ish projects, installs, in-home visits, right? So hopefully, just let me know in the chat. This number should be easy for everyone to calculate. Let me know what that number is for you. So at least you've got like an idea, bam, this is where we need to go. In Laura's case, probably about 475. Let me know in your case, based on the goal that you set, how many jobs do we need to run? Vince, 179. All right, hopefully you guys are tracking along with me. And this is easier than it was in the past, because in the past I had a spreadsheet. I was like, click on cell number 275. Hopefully this is easier and you guys are liking this. All right. The next thing we want to figure out, and this is really where the marketing portion of this comes into play and why this is so important, why this is so powerful, is to figure out how many leads we're going to need to generate in order to bring that into reality. And so next thing we need to figure out is what's our average conversion rate from a lead, right? It could be an online booking, could be a two-way text message, could be a phone call into the office. What's your average conversion rate from a lead to a sale? Anybody know what that number is? Laura, since I'm using you as the guinea pig here, if you don't mind, even just a guesstimate, what's your average conversion rate? 53%. I love the fact that it's a very specific number. I believe you're tracking this, right? So 53% conversion rate, which is fantastic. Did it update based on that? Let me see, 50. It did, okay. All right, I was like, wait a minute, 53%. All right, so really quickly, we know for Laura specifically, at a 53, assuming these numbers hold tight, we need 896 leads per month from our online marketing, from our offline marketing, from our referrals. We need 896 leads per month to arrive at 475 jobs at an average transaction value of $790 to arrive at $375,000 a month in revenue to get us to our $4.5 million in revenue. So that in and of itself should create some clarity, because a lot of times we say, hey, we got this goal and it's okay, now let's spend some money on marketing, and we just arbitrarily set some marketing budgets. We set some marketing dollars out into the ether, but now we can reverse engineer how many leads we need. And if this is crazy number to you, like, wow, there's no way, then we either have to improve our conversion rate, right? Oh, let's tighten up how we're answering the calls. Let's tighten up how we get this stuff done. Or we need to increase the average value in the home. Let's get our sales technicians, let's train them up. Let's get them to increase that average transaction value. Because if you change either of those two variables, it will massively change the number of leads that you need in order to get the goal. Great way to reverse engineer. Awesome. All right. Hopefully that's simple. What I really want to know from you guys, assuming you're plugging these numbers in, you're playing along with me, let me know what the number is for you. How many leads are you going to need to generate in 2026 on an average month to hit that target? 313. Awesome. That's very achievable for Vince. 712 for Jim. Fantastic. Awesome. Hopefully this exercise is helpful. Hopefully you guys are really tracking along with me here. Now, what I want you to do is in your workbook, there on the next page, on page 4, take the number and just write it down. Make it really clear for yourself, for your team, for your marketing team. All right, here's how much revenue we're going to do for the year. Here's how many jobs we need to book every single month. And here's the number of leads that we need to generate. This is the seed for clarity on building our marketing strategy, on building our marketing approach. All right, and a lot of you guys have already called this out. If anyone else hasn't called it out, let me know. What's the number of leads you're going to need to generate per month in order to hit the target? Let me know that into the chat. Again, if we just walk away with this, hopefully you get massive value already from today's session. All right, from there, we need to figure out how much are we going to need to spend? How are we going to need to deploy those dollars in order to bring the goals into reality? And L says, per month, 30 leads. Fantastic. Awesome. That's a great start for you and L. All right. The next piece of this puzzle, and I'm not going to spend quite as much time on this, but keeping that same calculator open, let's figure out like how much money we should invest in marketing, where we should deploy those dollars. And this calculator is just doing some math for you and helping you figure out how to spend those dollars as wisely as possible. And so I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to walk you guys through this. And If you've got follow-up questions, I'd love to answer these. And we will be getting into strategy and things as we go, but I think let's figure out like how the math works out first and foremost. All right. So in this same sheet, we've got up at the top, you had the lead target planner. We should all have clarity on how many leads we need. Next to that, there's a tab for the budget planner. So if we click on budget planner, now we can figure out what percentage of our revenue are we going to invest back into marketing. And then how do we want to allocate those dollars, online, offline, repeat and referral business? And then how much of the online budget are we going to put towards SEO, towards pay-per-click, towards display advertising, and other marketing initiatives like that? And we all know what the target is. We all wrote it down. We're using Laura as our guinea pig. So she's got $4.5 million as the target for the year ahead. In terms of what percentage you're going to reinvest back into marketing, typically between 1% and 5% would be to maintain whatever revenue you had last year. If you reinvest 1% to 5% back into marketing, you should be able to maintain that level of revenue, all other things being equal. Moderate growth, say I want to get 10 to 30% growth, you're probably going to want to invest 6 to 10%. Accelerated growth between 11 and 15%, and then aggressive growth would be 15% or more back into marketing. I would love to know, Laura, in your mind, if you're still with me here, like how much do you think you guys are going to be reinvesting in your marketing in 2026? And if you don't call out a number, I'm just going to say we're going to do moderate growth, and that's going to tell us we need to put 10%. So if we put 10% back, and again, we're just entering what's the revenue goal, how much percentage are we going to invest in marketing, then we've got a $450,000 marketing budget, which gives us $37,500 per month, right? Hopefully that's clear. Guys, let me know what number it is for you. And maybe you're like, no way, I'm not spending 10% of my revenue. And maybe for you, it's only 2 or 3%. It's probably going to keep you moderate, but at least you can make that decision in advance. Do I really want to grow? Am I willing to invest in marketing? Can I carve out this into my P&L and say, this is what we're going to invest? So we've got the rocket fuel that we need to drive these marketing initiatives. Anybody willing to put it in? Vince used 8%. All right, so I'm just going to use 8% for this example. All right, so $30,000 marketing budget. The next thing we need to figure out is how are we going to carve up that marketing? And I know a lot of us, I'm here teaching a digital marketing session on building your 2026 plan. And that's what we do is online marketing, digital marketing. But I think it would be unwise to put all of your financial resources only online, because there's a great strategy to be had in marketing offline, in doing print advertising and having billboards and sponsoring the local soccer club and things like that, in attending networking events and sponsoring those events, in forming strategic alliances with non-competitive trade partners in the industry. And I really think it would be amiss not to reinvest in marketing to your existing customer base. The cheapest customer that you can get is the customer that you've already done business with in the past. And a lot of us just are so focused on going out and getting that next customer that we forget to market back to the customer. So most of us should have some type of plan, like where people are like they're a preferred customer and they're paying a fee to get benefits to use us again. But if we're not like direct mailing, if we're not sending gifts, if we're not following up and following through with our existing customer base, we're going to be leaving massive money on the table. And this is going to depend based on how large you are, based on how you want to really deploy your financial resources. But usually something like a 60, 30, 10 works pretty good. So 60%, oops, did that not tick? You could change that to 60% for online marketing, 30% for offline marketing, 10% to repeat a referral. And this isn't going to be the exact number, but this just helps you think, all right, well, that would mean I've got $216 to invest in online. I've got $108,000 to invest in offline, and there's lots of great plays there. And then I've got $36,000 to remarket to my existing customer base. And we can do that again through newsletters. We can do that through gifts after they make a large transaction, through really remaining top of mind with them. And then from there, we can decide, okay, with that marketing budget for online, we've got $216,000 in this case to play with. How much do I want to put towards SEO? How much do I want to put towards paid ads? How much do I want to put towards display advertising? And I'm not gonna carve this up for you. We're gonna get into these strategies now, but just type helpful if it's helpful to use a calculator like this to figure out how much do we have to play with, how could I split these up online, offline, and referral, and then how do I want to deploy that to the various strategies we're going to be unpacking here in the next 30 to 45 minutes. JP says very helpful, fantastic. Okay, great. Track it along. These are the two key resources I wanted to make sure you guys were able to plug into, spend a little bit of time with, save this link, and then take those numbers and put them into your worksheet. And so on page 5, I really would love for you to figure out like what percentage you're going to invest, what's your total annual budget going to be for marketing, what's the monthly budget going to be if you break that down, and then how are you going to allocate those dollars? And you might want to spend some more time after this conversation, and that's where jumping on a one-on-one conversation with us would be great, because then we can talk about like where you're at, what your goals are, where you're spending money already, and help you form that strategy. And so if you like help figuring out where you should spend those dollars, no obligation, no hard sales pitch, you can schedule a time at plumberseo.net/schedule. Jim says, love this, been in marketing for 40 years. Fantastic, super cool. Vince says, great calculator. Thank you very much. All right, let's get into marketing strategy. And I'm gonna do a crash course so we can build our plan to figure out how we can deploy those financial resources to hit those goals and those targets with clarity. This is how much revenue we need each month. This is how many leads we're gonna need to generate in order to make that a reality. So there's really 3 key things that we want to put in place in order to hit those sales and revenue targets. Number 1 is we've got to drive leads, right? We got to figure out the channels that we're going to use to get the phone ringing, to get the online schedules, to get those two-way text messages firing. We've got to maximize conversion. I think this is super important. A lot of marketing companies will just talk about lead generation, or they'll just talk about rankings, or they'll just talk about cost per lead. Well, we have to make sure that we convert those leads into book jobs, into revenue, and ultimately into repeat customers that use us again and again. And then number 3 is we have to optimize the results. We really have to figure out, like, for that money that we're investing, what's generating a lead? What's our average cost per lead? What's generating return on investment so that we can optimize and shift the financial resources as smart as possible to get the outcomes that we're really after. And so we're going to unpack each of these 3 key things we want to focus on. I'm going to pull up examples. I'm going to walk you through it. And my goal would be to walk away super clear. Okay, this is the exact strategy I want to deploy to hit those targets in 2026. So first and foremost, if we're going to drive leads, we want to make sure we're taking advantage and full advantage of the organic play, which is the unpaid, no cost per click opportunities, which are typically going to be your lowest cost, highest quality leads. And as I say that, some of you might be like, SEO, like really, is that even still a thing with AI, with the way things are shifting? Does SEO even matter going into 2026? And what I want to tell you is, when we run a search today, yes, the algorithm has changed. Yes, the search results have changed. But at the end of the day, we type in your city, plumber, plumbing, AC repair, HVAC contractor, electrical services, whatever the term is that your customer might be typing. We've got local service ads at the top. We've got the map listings, and we've still got the organic non-paid results. And the latest statistics, like I'm talking about this year done by ComScore, 71% of the clicks on mobile devices and on desktop are still going to the map and the organic listings. And 67% go to the first couple of results. So yes, things have changed, but you absolutely don't want to sleep on coming up in these organic results. Good example of this. One of the companies we work with is the Meridian Advantage. They're a full-service plumbing, HVAC, electrical remodeling company in the East Lansing market, recently acquired through public equity, but an amazing organization and still generating amazing results online. We set up their website, we got it ranked, and for literally hundreds of terms in and around East Lansing, for plumbing, HVAC, electrical, they come up really strong in the map listings, in the organic listings, and they also come up really well in generative search. So if you search for them on Perplexity, you search for them on Claude, specific to that market, you type in East Lansing, they're recommended by AI. Well, we're talking about how to do this and how to optimize for this as well. But really what I want to show you is the results. So we track very closely how much they're investing in online marketing, how many leads they're generating, where those leads are coming from, what their average cost per lead is. So In this case, $8,000 invested, 417 leads, give or take, per month, an average of $19.32 per lead. But really what I want to draw your attention to is where those leads come from. 95 from organic. That means somebody clicked on one of the non-paid results, got to the website, and used a very specific tracking number or online scheduling link. 95 leads from that. 173 directly from the Google map. And so that's 65% of those leads that have been generated directly from organic sources. And yes, SEO still matters. You don't want to rely exclusively on paid ads, local service ads, Google ads. Give me a yes in the chat if that makes sense. And if it's helpful to see a real world example in today's market like that, yes, organic still matters. Okay, cool. I see the yeses coming in. So what about AEO? What about GEO? I know we're hearing these terms. We're like, are people even using Google all that much anymore? I just wanted to define these terms for you so that it can remove confusion. AEO is answer engine optimization, which would, like, theoretically, if you're just using the vernacular, that would be coming up in Siri. It would be coming up in Alexa and like those types of devices. See if it doesn't come on. All right. Then there's generative search engine optimization. And so generative engines are their Claude and their Perplexity and their most commonly ChatGPT. And this is really generative engine is where there's the most momentum happening right now. And you want to make sure that you're optimizing for that. You're coming up for that. I really prefer to refer to this as search everywhere optimization. So as opposed to confusing ourselves and coming up with 19 different terms, at the end of the day, we want to make sure we're coming up where our customers are looking for our plumbing, HVAC, electrical, home service key terms. And it's just search everywhere optimization. Interestingly, if we go to ChatGPT right now and we run a search in your market, we type in something like, I'm looking for a quality plumbing company in Fargo, North Dakota, who would you recommend? ChatGPT is giving an organic style result where it's giving a map and it's actually displaying those types of results. And if you ask it, like, how did you come up with that? What were the factors that made you recommend Laney's, which is one of our clients? It'll tell you. It'll tell you the citations they had. It'll tell you the reviews they had. It'll tell you like what was on their website. And so we can reverse engineer towards that. And so I want you to be optimizing to come up organically and on the map in Google. I want you to be optimizing and thinking about how do we make sure we're coming up on those generative engines? Because if that picks up and the rest of your competition isn't paying attention, that's going to be really high quality, low cost lead flow. And I'll tell you, my wife, probably most of if we think about our ideal customer avatar, affluent, willing to pay a premium in order to get great service, when she needs home services today, she asks ChatGPT. She tells what the problem is. She says, here's what I'm looking for. And she asks it, who would you recommend? And we've hired many contractors that aren't clients through that search. And so you just want to make sure you're thinking about that. And so we've developed a platform. I want you guys all to run this. It's a free report you can run at visibilityreport.ai. You'll type in your company name, your company website. You'll type in a couple of key terms, and it will actually show you how you're coming up in ChatGPT, OpenAI, Gemini, Grok, and Perplexity. So I encourage you guys, just spend a couple secs right now, get clarity in where you sit on these types of reports and on these engines today. All right, while I'm doing that, I want to bring everybody back to reality for a minute, because when we think about ChatGPT and we think about Claude, we're like, it's hard enough to focus on Google and all these other platforms. Don't freak out, right? We're still in 2026. This may change by 2030, but in the immediate moment, 100 billion searches every single month for home services are happening directly on Google, only about 500,000 on ChatGPT, and significantly less on Perplexity and Bing and all these other platforms. So it's still the 100-pound gorilla is Google. It's still like that's where your customers are looking, but we still want to make sure we're thinking about those other engines as well. For the sake of time, I'm not going to talk a lot about generative engine optimization and how to get ranked in the generative engines. Just know that's something we're focused extensively on here at Plumbing and HVAC SEO. We've got an entire team that's researching and studying and testing, and we've got north of 200 plumbing, HVAC, home service companies that we work with. And we're really focused on this and making sure that our clients are way ahead of the pack in terms of ranking in generative search. But if we really have a shortcut the search everywhere optimization formula. It's figure out what keywords and queries your customer are typing in, and then identify like which of those keywords actually have some volume, which of those actually have some type of commercial intent, and then make sure we're coming up. And there's lots of great tools that can help you, like Google Keyword Tools, SpyFu, Google Ads. Once you figure out what your keywords are, what those keyword combinations and permutations are, then we want to make sure we've got unique pages on our website that are properly optimized with title tags and H1 tags and meta descriptions and all of that fun stuff to come up for those keywords. And what that means is pages for each of our main services with the right optimization, and then pages for each of the surrounding cities that we happen to serve. And then we want to make sure that we've also optimized the user experience, because it's not just about the text on the site, and it's not just about keyword stuffing. It's really about making sure that the customer clicks on your site and has a good experience. And that's what the engines are looking for. So that means making sure you've got good site speed, making sure that you've got good core vitals, making sure that people are on the site, they aren't bouncing immediately or getting frustrated. And then we want to on-page optimize, right? I could talk for 30 minutes about this. I don't want to bore you to death, but that's having all the right meta descriptions and the right markup on the website. And then we've got to build authority, right? And this is where most of us miss out. Some of you guys have great websites that have great content, but you haven't had somebody go in and say, like, how do we build our links? How do we build our citations? How are we building the authority so that our site becomes the site that comes up in those search results? And then we've got to track the keywords on Google, on Bing, on these other different engines, and optimize for those results. And so this whole process starts with understanding the keywords. And in your workbook, I've given you guys a link to some of the most commonly searched keywords. It's not just plumber, it's not just plumbing, it's drain cleaning and water heater repair and gas line installation and tankless water heaters and backflow testing. Like, we want to make sure we're optimizing to come up for those higher intent commercial key terms. In HVAC, it's AC repair, air conditioning, indoor air quality, those types of things. And then on generative engines, we're finding it's a little bit more like best HVAC company near me. Who would you recommend for this particular thing in my area? And it's going to shift a little bit for generative engines than the way people are currently searching on Google. I've given you guys the keyword list. What I find is a lot of people get the list and they're like, okay, I got all these keywords, but how do I use this? How do I get some actionable intelligence behind it? What I'd like to offer to do for everybody that's participating in this workshop with us going into 2026 is let us run a baseline report for you. And this takes work, right? It takes energy to take your company, your service area, the services that you provide, combine that with what we know are the most commonly searched terms, run that against a filter to figure out which of those keywords have the most search volume in your area. But we'll do that work, and then we'll actually run our reports, show you exactly where you're coming up on Google Maps, on the generative engines, so that you can see, like, all right, we're coming up really well here, but we're missing these opportunities. I really think that this is kind of the foundation of your digital marketing footprint going into 2026. And so if you want to get that done, go to plumberseo.net/schedule. Again, we'll give you the keyword list based on your service area, based on your keywords. We'll show you exactly where you're coming up. And of course, we'd love to have a conversation about, hey, if it's great, high fives, you're in good hands. If there's room for improvement, here's how we could help. And here's what it would look like to work together. But we would never, no pressure, no obligation, no uncomfortable conversations. So if you're serious about this and you want this data going into 2026, go to plumberseo.net/schedule. Again, we'll do all of that work for you and hand it to you completely free of charge. There's a question on this that I want to go back to. Laura, my website and email domain are different. That's hurting my SEO, the AI availability. Okay, that AI visibility report, it's not hurting your rankings, but we've recognized that if we just make it open, then hundreds and hundreds of people will start to use it. And it actually does cost us some money. It's a homegrown inbuilt system. So reach out to Christian or go to plumberseo.net/schedule, and we can run that same report for you in the back end. But yeah, it's going to look for your domain to match your website. Otherwise, we just block that so we don't wind up inundated with giving data away for free. Okay. So in your workbooks, I give you this checklist, and you should be able to get really clear. What are my keywords? What pages do I need on my website? How much content density do I need on my website? What's the approach to make sure I'm coming up in the search results? Again, I could talk for hours and hours on this. I don't want to bore you guys to tears. But on this last topic, on this last example on this topic, one of the clients we work with is Bud's Plumbing. They're based in Evansville, Indiana. One of our longtime clients, also recently purchased by PE, which I think is a great thing, right? I love to see our clients get acquired. I love the big liquidity event. I also feel like maybe, obviously, a lot of the PE companies are staying with us, but it's a little frustrating. So this is the client, Bud's Plumbing. If we go and search in Evansville Plumber, you can see they come up #1 in maps, #1 organic. They come up really well, like in a generative search engine. You literally go to ChatGPT like somebody would. I'm looking for a plumber in Evansville, Indiana. Who would you recommend? ChatGPT gives up its recommended result, and they're like the #1 recommended company in that market. Here's the data behind that. Like the data behind that is they spend about $13,000 a month in online marketing. That's our management fees and our ad spend that goes directly to the platforms. 828 leads generated and tracked on a monthly basis. That's an average of $16.35 per lead, 285 from PPC, 455 from Google Maps. So just an example, kind of like how this stacks up. When you rank, you will get lead flow, you will get opportunities directly from that. Nick, thanks for dropping the link into the workbook. Okay, so that's SEO. What I want you to do in page 3 of your workbook, there's like kind of a self-assessment. From an SEO perspective, how would you rate it? I want you to highlight it. Either it's green, got it, we're crushing it with all our keywords. Yellow, I don't know, maybe there's room for improvement. Red, I know we don't rank as well as we should. I know there's an issue. I know we need to go back and spend some time on that. I'd love for you guys to go back and just self-assess on that, just to make sure this is going to be as practical as possible. JP said same, Laura said same. We're a small family-owned company. Don't want to be bought out. Okay, good. Listen, we all have different goals. We all have different aspirations. I'd love for you to serve your local market. I'd love for you to hire technicians and train them up and have apprentices. Not all of us have the aspiration to be bought. And so I'm glad. I'd love to be part of your growth, whether we work together or not. I'd love to be part of your growth. And if at some point in the future that means you get acquired, that's fine too. Okay, so in your workbook, if I'm just going to share my screen here to make sure we're all tracking along, and I'll get through these other key topics a little bit quicker, but I did want to go a little bit deep on organic, especially since generative engines and generative search engine optimization is such a big needle mover going into 2026. What I'd love for you to do, actually, it's on page, I said page 3. It's actually page 7. Just come in here and, like, when you think about organic, rate yourself. So there's a green, a yellow, and a red. So you can grab the highlighter up here and then highlight red. If it's an issue right now, highlight it in red. Let me know for you, like red, yellow, green on organic. How would you rate yourself today? Let me know. Yellow, always room for improvement. Okay, Vince, fair enough. Fantastic. Awareness precedes change. And I think that's going to start, yellow for Laura, that's going to start by running this visibility report. And it's going to start by going to plumberseo.net/schedule and letting us run that analysis for you. Okay, next up is we got to drive paid leads, paid traffic. I'd love for us all just to be able to do organic and call it a day. There's going to have to be, for most of us, if we want to hit that goal, we want that consistent lead generation, we're going to need to do some paid advertising as well. And so I think your foundation for your digital marketing strategy is organic. Good website, built to convert, pages for each of our services, coming up in those generative and Google related searches. Up from there, I think all of us, if we've got some money to invest, should be investing in 2 things: Google ads and local service ads. In every market, there's people searching, they're very at the bottom of the funnel, they've got a problem they need to solve, and we can capture those opportunities right there with paid advertising in local service ads and Google ads. Now, I'd say up from there, before you spend more money on other channels, you want to put remarketing in place, which is just dropping a pixel when anyone gets to your website so that they can see, we can advertise them directly through display advertising. We can advertise through banners. We can advertise on Facebook and Meta. They're no longer just a random homeowner at that point. If they got to our website and they're in our local service market, we want for the next 30 to 90 days to be aggressively remaining top of mind for them, because not everybody that gets to your website converts right on the spot. Usually we're seeing like 20 to 40% conversion which means more than 50% of your prospects get to the website. They have a problem they're looking to solve, but they just haven't pulled the trigger yet. And so we can dynamically advertise to those people through display advertising, just those people for that window of time. I also think there's a case to be made that we should stretch that retargeting pixel as far as we can, because we don't want to just have them do business with us once, right? We want them to do business with us. We want them to remember us so that they refer us to their friends and family, so that they use this again in the future. And so I really think retargeting is just a no-brainer. Let's remain top of mind with the people in our world. But then also is automation. I want to make sure if we're investing in paid ads, then we need to be leveraging marketing automation to follow up, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But I just think that's an important precursor. Up from there, you've got pay-per-lead services like Angie, Thumbtack, Nextdoor. I'm going to highlight Thumbtack right now just because we're seeing high-quality leads through Thumbtack, especially if you've got a properly optimized profile. Most people hate Angie. Just type hate if that's you. And we all have different perspectives and different thoughts. I know people that love Angie and they get great results from Angie, even today. But Thumbtack, because I think it's the highest probability of aligning with ChatGPT on the search stuff, I think we should all be thinking about Thumbtack. JP says, hate it. All right, so good. Most of us hate it, right? So that's why this is really, let's optimize our spend here. If you've got extra spend and you've got extra dollars to invest, we can pay for some of these pay-per-lead services. And then paid directories are, in some markets, if you type in your city plus plumbing, yeah, like Yelp as well, your city plus plumbing, your city plus AC repair, organically, a lot of times there's going to be the first couple of companies that come up. Hopefully that's you. But then below that, in certain markets, Yelp comes up, or Angie comes up, or America's Best comes up. There's different sites that come up. If those sites are coming up organically, a lot of cases it's worth having a premium listing to be in the top 3 results for those people that go directly to that directory. And then up at the very top is really just like more brand advertising, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, YouTube ads. In my mind, if you're not doing $10 million or more, and you're not looking to become the household name in your backyard, and those companies exist, right? There's the big companies that have massive budgets to invest. You're better served to focus on these 2 to 3 strategies. All right. So when it comes to paid advertising, I'm not going to do a whole training on this. I just want to give you guys the big picture. Local service ads, right? If you're not already set up on local service ads, you're not playing the game the way that Google wants you to in terms of bidding for the term, setting your service area, closing the loop on the jobs, driving the in profile reviews. This is an opportunity. We're still finding average cost per lead from local service ads less than paid search on Google ads. And then we're finding the quality of those leads are great as well. Definitely want to pay attention to local service ads. Number 2 is Google ads, which we've all heard of, pay-per-click advertising, where we pick our key terms. We make sure we're bidding enough to come up in the results. We track those results and we drive outcomes. I know a lot of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies have been burned by investing in Google ads specifically. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, right? And I think if we're just picking all of the service terms, we're having one text ad, we're driving to the home page, that's a recipe for disaster, because you're going to have low relevancy, you're going to have a low quality score, and you're not going to be converting those leads into jobs and conversions anyways. If you do this right, like we actually set up ad groups based on the search intent, we drive them to a very specific page. We've got a very compelling reason for them to click on us and to take action and to choose us versus the competition. And we've got marketing automation on the back end so we can convert those leads. This can be a really effective strategy. Just a quick example, Cardinal Home Services is a company we work with. You can see here, just on paid ads, about a $9,000 investment. This is just paid Google ads specifically. 224 leads tracked. Divide that out. That's about $40 per lead from Google ads. Do the math on transaction value. That's about a 7.5 time return on investment. And I've got a bunch of slides for examples for this, but I don't want to use the next 30 minutes showing examples. But just know, you want Google ads and local service ads to be part of your strategy. You need to optimize the way that you approach it. And when you do it right, it should have a healthy 5-to-1, 6-to-1 return on investment, which is very profitable, very scalable. Number 3 is retargeting. I just talked about this, but somebody gets to your website, now we can pixel them and they can start to see our banner ads and draw them back into the funnel. Relatively simple to set up. Once you've got all the ads and all the different styles, you want to rotate that based on seasonality, especially if you're going out of recency, but you're thinking about keeping the customer life cycle and engaged with you. You want to be rotating those ads. And I'll talk about automation here in a little bit. So that's paid search. I'd love for you just to go in and rate yourself, green, yellow, red here on the paid ads portion of the strategy. How's it look? Come back to page 7 in your workbook. I'll pop to my screen here for a quick sec. That way we all know where to look. And it's simple, right? We're just going in paid ads. Is that green? Is it yellow? Is it red? It's like, I tried it and it didn't work. And that's an issue. Let's see. I do see some questions coming in. We'll get right to the next thing. What's the thought on Yelp? Yelp, I've heard wildly different results in different markets. I hear people that hate them because they were extorting them for review. Like they got some bad reviews and once they pay, the reviews went away. But I hear people in certain markets get really good results from it. Why the hype on automation? Personalized has proven best over the years. Good question, Jim. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's see. Christy says, hello. You're sharing valuable information. I should know if you have experience in Los Angeles. Very competitive market. I do have some experience there. It is a competitive market. Green or yellow, says Vincento. Do you service other verticals besides plumbing? Matthew, our main market is plumbing, HVAC, electrical. And we do have occasionally we'll take a client outside this market, but that's our main focus. Okay. I told you guys I want to give you our best strategies, our best techniques. We've mapped out some things. Are you still tracking with me? Just give me a yes if you're still good. I promise to go through these next couple of strategies a little bit quicker so I can get you guys back on your day. Okay, good. I'm getting some yeses. Fantastic. All right. Strategy number 3 for driving leads is database marketing. And I think a lot of us miss this. We spend a lot of money on generating leads, but we don't follow up with the past leads that didn't convert. We don't follow up with the past customers that we want to get back into their home. And really the goal for your marketing should be not to generate a one-time customer. Your goal should be to generate a customer that becomes a repeat buyer that uses you for years and years. That way we can increase the lifetime customer value, but then also refers you to others. And we do that by effective database marketing. And a lot of ways we do this, but at the most basic, all your prospects, all your customers, we want to be sitting in our platform, whether it's ServiceTitan or House Call Pro or whatever platform we use. And then we want to reach out to them and we want to connect with them and we want to develop further relationship with them. And so database reactivation at its most simple is going back to your unconverted leads and making them an offer. And it's going back to your past customers and making them an offer. And most of us don't do it, right? If I've worked with hundreds of plumbing, HVAC, home service companies, most of the time they might've sent one email once, we reached them a couple times and that was about it. Very simple example. Seasonally, we can take your list of past customers and say, hey, John, this is Alice with Bob's HVAC. With fall here, we want to be sure your home is protected from the cold. As your trusted HVAC professionals, we're running a limited special, $500 off. Simple reply yes, and I'll send you a coupon with all the details. And they reply yes, or they click a button and automation fires that schedules a time for your technicians to get out into the field. We've got about 6 different plays for this because it could be, hey, you know what? We got some vacancy in our schedule. We're going to be in your area. Do you want us to come by and do an in-home assessment? That's one of the plays you can run. Making a specific offer for that time of the year is a play you can run. Real world example of this in the real world, 72 Degrees, Carney & Sons had a list of about 5,000 past customers, past leads. We sent a very similar offer to that. They had 300 replies, 119 book jobs, 24 completed installs for $84,000 in revenue with zero spend. It was literally just getting some messages out to the past customer base. And this is something like we tend to do with our clients out of the gates. We want to get you some quick wins. And so like we get that past customer base that hasn't been contacted and we make an offer. And without even investing a lot more in paid spend, creatives, we can actually start to generate some revenue right out of the gates. But this is something you should be doing on a monthly or on a minimum quarterly basis. And there should be a whole strategy around this. And so same thing, red, yellow, green, we're doing database marketing. We're doing this really well. Yellow, We do it every now and then. There's no newsletter going out. There's no offers going out. At Red Being, not doing it at all. Just let me know in the chat. Again, in your workbook, this is on page 7. Hopefully this is self-assessment. Chris is giving it a yellow. Okay, cool. So kind of doing some of that, but there's room for improvement for sure. Awesome. So this is how we're going to drive leads. And this is like the main meat and potatoes of your digital marketing strategy. Rapid fire. We also have to convert. We got to convert the leads into jobs, the traffic into calls, the one-time customer into a repeat customer. And so when it comes to conversion, like the main conversion factor for you right now is your website. All other marketing being equal, they see your billboard, they see your truck, they see your ad, they're going to wind up Googling your company, looking at your reviews, and getting to your website. And that's going to be where they either convert or they don't convert. Now, a lot of people call off Google Maps, they call from other places, but if your website's not built to convert, it's going to be bleeding opportunity. And so how do we maximize our conversion from visitor to caller? Again, I can spend 45 minutes just on this. I don't want to go too in depth, but you want to make sure that you got a website that has the right conversion factors, which I'll briefly touch on. Good example, I'm not going to pull it up right now, is cardinalhvac.com. And you'll notice personality, like real pictures of the people on their team, and conversion factors in the right place. I just want to show you the data here. Cardinal, $14,000 invested in online marketing, 1,931 leads generated across the whole. That's, divide that out, $7.28 per lead. You can see there's calls coming organic, calls from paid search, a lot of calls coming from Google Maps. If we drill down on that and we kind of go, all right, so what about the actual conversion from visitor on their website to lead? We're seeing an average conversion rate on here of about 25%. And we've got examples that are better than that. We've got examples that are worse than that. Most home service companies converted about 10 to 15%. And so with the right conversion factors, you can double the conversion from visitor to a book job, to a lead, to an inquiry. Another example here is JD Precision. Again, personality, you can see the pictures of the trucks. It's jdprecisionplumbing.com. Phone number in the right place. $14,000 invested, 622 leads, $22.69 per lead across the spectrum of lead sources. Conversion rate, 20%. And you can fluff this in a lot of ways to make the number seem higher, but if you can consistently convert at 20% or higher, you're going to be doing really well with your conversions. And then another example, Bud's Plumbing, which I referenced earlier here, 30% conversion. All right, so how do we get our website to convert? In today's market, the most important thing I want you to focus on, yes, phone call. Make it easy for them to call your office. Make it easy for them to click the button. We've always optimized for the phone conversation, but like I talked about earlier, today's customer would prefer to book online. If you don't have online scheduling on your website where they can pick a time, even if it's a soft schedule, you're putting up barriers that are going to make it harder for someone to convert into your services. And so lots of online booking opportunities available, right? We can do it for you through Conversion Amp, which is our platform. We can set it up for you through Schedule Engine. We can do it directly into House Call Pro or directly into Field Edge or directly into Service Titan, whatever platform you use. It's just a matter of setting it up, right? And getting comfortable with the fact that somebody can pick a time and hope that it matches your dispatch board. I'd love to check in. Are you doing online scheduling today? Yes or no? And if not, I'd really like to push the point that you should be, and whatever resistance you have to it, there's a way around it. And it's going to be for the betterment of your company as well as the effectiveness of your marketing. And then third is we want to make sure we've got two-way text messaging. Some customers will book online or they're soft book online, but some want to talk to somebody or some people want to have a conversation. If you've got a bubble that says, text me, that is what we found converts best, because it feels like I'm actually going to text with the owner of this company and I'm going to be able to get a couple of quick answers. They enter their name, their cell phone number, they type in a quick inquiry, and ideally, you can automate the first couple of messages. That's, hey, Sheila, thanks for reaching out. How can I help? And now we're two-way text messaging, and they type whatever they're going to type. And then through AI or through a real person on the back end, we can have an intelligent conversation that leads to, great, let's pick a time and actually get that scheduled in. Nick, if you can find that audio and close it, that'd be great. Okay. So I've got a laundry list of things you can do to improve conversion on your website. Again, I promise to keep this part a little more condensed, but in your workbook, I would spend some time going through that checklist and saying, okay, do we have the phone number? Do we have online scheduling? Do we have all of the personality, authenticity that's going to help this website convert? So red, yellow, green on this one. Website, is it built to convert? Do we have online scheduling? I want you to just pop into your workbook on page 7 and rate it. And if you're still tracking with me, let me know that in the chat. Is this an opportunity? Is it green? Let's see. Well, I think that's Laura. Vince, yellowish to green. Hopefully a couple insights and takeaways. Next up for conversion is automation. Like, this is one of the things that can massively improve the effectiveness of how you convert a visitor into a lead, into a book job, into a repeat customer that uses you again and again. And interesting. I'm going straight to reviews. Actually, reputation is next. Okay, sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. Reputation, right? Your reviews, what people are saying about you online will massively drive your Google Map rankings. It will also massively, it will impact the conversion from lead to book job, because most people, before they actually call, they'll search your company and reviews. And if there's not reviews, if there's not a lot of positive reviews, if there's not recent reviews, it's a red flag, and they'll probably wind up calling somebody else. And so the best thing you can do is automate the way that you request reviews after every service call. A million ways to spin this cat. Let me know what you're using for your review platform today. Are you Pulsem? Are you Birdeye? Are you Customer Lobby? Are you Review Buzz? Are you using Nearby Now or some other platform? Let me know. And if nothing, just type nothing, because I think that's useful to know as well. Because if you're not using some automation where after every service call, an email or a text message goes out saying, hey, thanks for your business. We'd love it if you write us a review. You're putting yourself at a massive, massive disadvantage. All right, Laura's using Jobber. Fantastic. Let me know in the chat. We've iterated this over the years, and literally HubSpot says, Vincente, okay, it used to be a card that the technician would hand, and then they would say, hey, if you would, write me a review, right? And the person would go in and type it in. And then we started doing a back-end review request where somebody in the office, after the job was completed, would send an email. And then we started making it automatic where they would enter the name in their email and it would send an email and a text message. And then we started using Nearby Now, which is a system where the technician would check in the field, and as they're doing the job, it would pass some data back to the website and it would push a review request. And all of those outcomes generated a little bit of friction because it required someone in the office or somebody in the field to think about it and have to do another step. And over the last couple of years, we had a massive breakthrough on this. And regardless if you're using Service Titan or House Call Pro or Field Edge, we can automate the review request so that after the job is booked, it fires an automation. So after the job is complete, it waits 24 to 48 hours, and then automatic text message and email goes out. The companies we've been able to put that automation for have seen significant increase in the number of reviews. And so my biggest tip in 2026 would be to automate this. Don't sweat so much, I'm going to get bad reviews, or just make it so that after every service call, a review request goes out. A good example of this, one of the companies we've worked with over the years is the Plumbing Nerds, and they're in kind of the Bonita Springs area. They went from 0 reviews to 1,500 for Bonita Springs, 1,200 for Naples, and have literally grown from like a startup to over $20 million in revenue and climbing. And if we kind of look at the data here, 21,000 invested in online, 884 leads, $25 average cost per lead. I believe that their reputation and those reviews is a big driver of that. Jim says working on automating that over the next year. Fantastic. Okay. So that's reputation. I want you to green, yellow, red reputation. And it's not, okay, do I have reviews? But even though we're asking that, and what's your average review sentiment? And that's all good data. But do we have a system in place where we're creating a world-class experience, where we're training the technicians to have those conversations in the home? Are they leaving something behind that says, hey, would love it if you take a minute to write a review. Our company thrives on this. And then, are we recognizing it in the organization? Are we doing team huddles on a weekly or monthly basis and shouting out the technicians that have the most reviews? Baking into the culture is really important. And then using the automations, like I've talked about here, can make a big difference on that. Yellow, getting all green. Fantastic, says Jim. Which platform do you recommend? Google, Trustpilot. For your plumbing, HVAC home service company, you're going to want to drive those reviews predominantly to Google. And I say that with a little bit of an asterisk because now with ChatGPT and other AI engines, they're pulling reviews from other sources as well. So you want to try and pick up some reviews on Angie, even if you hate it. You want to try and pick up some reviews on Yelp, even if you hate it. You want to try and pick up some reviews on Thumbtack. But in today's market, it's still definitely Google is like the main place where you want to aggregate those reviews. All right. The next one is automation. And this is, I think, one of the key drivers that's going to help separate you from the competition in 2026. Speed to lead is the most important thing. 50 to 60% of inbound leads go on the converter. So they're calling your office. Hey, I've got this problem. I'd like to schedule a call, or they have a couple of questions. Only about 50% of those where we see convert. So what happens to the other 50 to 60%? 90% of web forms, most of you guys have web forms on your website where they can enter their name and their email address and they hit submit. 90% of those don't convert because nobody follows up. The reason is today's market, if you don't follow up in 15 minutes or less, your lead goes cold. They have too many other options. They hit the back button, they contact the next company, they book directly online, and you're out of the game, right? Speed of lead is the answer. So you've got to follow up quicker. You've got to follow up more frequently. Most customers that don't book on the initial call need to be followed up with at least 5 to 7 times before booking. And your customer in today's market would prefer text messaging than phone. And most of you aren't text messaging your customers at all. So the answer, if you aren't deploying these strategies, is leverage automation so that every web form gets followed up within 2 minutes or less. They get a phone call from your office that connects to somebody on the team. They get a text message. Hey, I saw you reached out. Let me know how I can help. And they get an email as well, even though they're going to ignore the email. And then you want to automate your sequence where they're going to get followed up with every couple of days automatically. Hey, just wanted to check in. Did you get that resolved? Hey, you're still looking to have that water heater installed, right? Take the data from their submission and they continue to follow up until they've either booked and we remove it from the opportunity board. They tell you no, and we can set it to closed, or they haven't responded. We're just going to keep following up until we get an answer or until we get it booked. I can tell you that once we get these marketing automations in place, it has a huge impact on your conversion. And then we want to use that same technology once they become a customer to drive them to write a review. And then to drive them to give us a referral. And then to drive them to use us again and again in the future as they have other problems that we can solve within their home. The other cool thing, I'm not going to play this video, but the other really cool thing that's available in 2026 is, skip this. All right, so the other cool thing that you can do now is AI voice answering. If you're going to voicemail today, like that's unacceptable, right? There's no reason you can't have an AI answer and say, hey, thanks for calling our office. How can I help you? Get their name, get their phone number, get their email address, soft schedule them. Literally the AI voice technology exists. And then AI text messaging also exists where you can train the AI to understand what their questions are, what they're trying to solve for, answer those questions, and strategically have the goal of getting them to book a time and a date for you to get a technician into the home. So that's automation. I'd love for you to rate green, yellow, red. What's the sentiment here? That we haven't dialed in? Is it green, yellow? I've done some AI follow-up, but I'm not really doing it. Red, this is a big opportunity. And red's good, right? Red means there's money on the table. Is this information we go over in our one-on-one? Yeah, Jim, yes. Schedule at plumberseo.net/schedule. We'll talk through all of this. We'll run that analysis. We'll talk about the gaps in your current strategy and help you solve. Okay. Next up is, so we've talked about how we're generating leads. We've talked about how to maximize the leads. The next thing we have to do is we have to optimize results, right? And to optimize our results, we've got to have a good dial on how much we're spending, how many leads we're generating, what our average cost per lead is. And so usually it starts with total spend. Like whenever I talk with a contractor and we're talking about accelerating their growth and their goals for the next year, and would say, okay, how much are you willing to invest to get to that $2 million or that $3 million mark? They want to keep the spend exactly where it was. Typically, if we want to get to the next level, assuming an ROI, we're going to need to spend a little bit more. And that's where that budget allocation sheet that we worked through earlier comes into play. And if I recommend you to go back to calculator.plumberseo.net and really commit to a budget that makes sense, that is going to help get you to where you want to go. A lot of times we've got to spend a little bit more than we might feel comfortable with. From there, we want to know, if you can't track, all right, I'm spending that 20 grand a month, how many leads am I getting? How many jobs are we generating? What's my average cost per lead? Then no one wants to do that, right? I'm not selling you just to spend money in a vacuum. Let's make sure we know exactly what our average cost per lead is, and that average cost per lead makes financial sense within the constraints of our goals, within the constraints of our profit margins, and all of those other targets. And so you're really having a dashboard that will help you see, how much did I spend? And we put this in place for every client we work with. How much did we spend? In this case, Paul the plumber, one of the clients we work with, $12,000, right? $1,990 was spent. That was how much went to us. That's how much went to the ad networks. How many leads were generated? And so this, again, we're tracking all of the sources. We're tracking online booking. We're tracking phone calls. We're tracking organic. We're tracking paid search. 1,119 leads. Then simple math will tell us that divided by that is $10.85 per lead. We want to know that number. Like, it's very hard to continue to increase your spend if you're not confident what our average cost per lead is. And then we want to know, what are the sources, right? Here's what came from organic. Here's what came from paid. Here's what came from Google Maps. Here's what came from those online schedules and chat forms, right? This is the total aggregation. Track your numbers. I'd love for you to rate red, yellow, green on, specifically on tracking. Green, you know exactly how much you're spending. You know exactly what your results are. Yellow, like you know how much you spent, but you're not really clear on what the results are. And red being like, I'm just spending money and I'm hoping that it pays off on the back end. Green says, Vince, I see a couple of yellows. Awesome. Let's just make sure as we start to ramp up for 2026, let's get that tracking dialed in. Let's know the goal. Let's know what we're tracking against, and let's track against those metrics. And then last but not least is ROI. What's our return on investment? Who cares if my average cost per lead is $2.50 if I'm not generating a return on the investment from that? We've got two ideas that we like to use for tracking ROI. There's projected ROI, and that's, we can use some benchmark data, which is, all right, how much did we spend? Where's that number in here? $9,000, a total of $11,000. How many leads do we generate? And we can project what's our average conversion rate from a lead to a book job or to an in-house visit. And then what's our conversion rate from an in-house visit to an actual conversion? Then what's our average transaction value? And we can see, based on projections, if all of those numbers worked out for the $11,000 that we invested, we should have generated $272,000 in revenue, which is a 22-time return on investment. This at least gives you a North Star to compare against, to know, okay, does that check against reality? And you look at your financials and say, yes, we generated well above that, and these numbers are playing out. And if it's off, it's okay, where are we miscalculating? Is our conversion rate too high? Is our average value per job too high? And we can adjust based on that. I think everybody should, at a minimum, should have this type of tracking. We're spending money and we have a pretty close estimation of a return on investment. But what's really neat in today's market is that the ability to stop guessing actually exists, right? If you're using House Call Pro, Service Titan, Field Edge, I'm trying to think, like those are maybe Sarah, those four main platforms, we can now match the leads that we generate from online marketing to the actual customer in your dispatch system and be able to see how many of those leads actually turn into a booked job and what was the revenue generated on the back end of that. We call this our ROI Insights Report. It costs a little extra money. There's a premium associated with it, but it really gives us the ability to bridge the gap between how much did we spend and how many leads did we generate, and is there ROI? And the more confident we are on the true ROI, the more we can allocate the budget to the channels that generate the best outcomes and the best results. And so that's something we definitely roll out for clients that tend to work with us. And I just want you to know, even if you don't work with us, this type of technology exists, And you should be looking to get to that level if you're going to be spending a considerable amount of money on your marketing into 2026. So red, yellow, green, ROI. Do the ROI confidently. Red, not. Yellow, guessing. Red being like, I don't have it at all. I'd love for you guys to rate that for me. So again, that's on page 7 in your workbook. Hopefully this was super practical today. We did some work, and I see a lot of you guys still with me, chatting with me, engaging with me. I know I've gone the full 90 minutes. My goal was to give you a clear roadmap, a clear strategy to set a goal, to set a target, to reverse engineer that, to build the action plan, and to set the KPIs. Give me a rating on a scale from 1 to 10, those of you that are on with me live. 1 being like, you just wasted my time. 10 being like, this was great. I feel clear. I feel like you delivered on the promises of today's session. Just drop a number in for me. Laura's giving me a 10. Thank you, Sheila, a 10. Really appreciate it. Fantastic, guys. I appreciate you hanging out. I appreciate you engaging. Excited to see you guys get the goals and the outcomes. I showed a lot of examples. I'm going to show one last case study. This is Paul the plumber. $12,000 invested in online marketing, 1,555 leads tracked, $7.75 per lead. Has grown from 6 trucks to over 16 trucks. Recently crossed the 8-figure level where they're doing over $10 million in annualized revenue. I just want you to think about what that would mean for you to have clear strategy, to have tracking and accountability, and to have the horsepower of a company that really specializes in this industry. It is committed to helping you get the results and the outcomes. And so if you need some help, we'd love the opportunity to connect with you. Again, it really starts with complimentary assessment, right? And it's no obligation. It's no cost. What we'll do is we'll run that keyword list for you. We'll run the analysis to see where you come up in the main search engines as well as the generative engines. We'll take a review of your website, your conversion factors. We'll do some mystery shopping. We try and schedule on your website. How quickly do we get a call? How quickly do we get a follow-up? And honestly, you'll walk away with massive value in terms of implementing your strategy for 2026. And if you want to talk with us and you'd like to talk with us about how we can implement it, great. We'll have that conversation as well. So if you'd like to take us up on that, you can call us at 866-610-4647 or go to plumberseo.net/schedule. That's plumberseo.net/schedule. And that's it for today. Would love for you guys to get really clear on like your 3 action items from this and to go back to your workbook, find the next thing that you want to solve for, and excited for you guys to accomplish your goals in 2026. Any questions here? I did see where to get the workbook, plumberseo.net/2026. Emma says, great presentation. I appreciate that. Thoughts on tracking? I'm not sure what the specific question is. I think you work for an agency, so hit me up offline. But in terms of like plumbing, HVAC, home service companies, like definitely we can track all of this for you. We can put all of the metrics in place to help you figure out where the money's going, how many leads you're generating, how you're pulsing against your goals for the year. I think that's it. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you in the future. Feel free to reach out, like outside of scheduling a time. If you've got a specific question, you can email me, josh@plumberseo.net, and we'll talk to you all again real soon. Thanks, everybody.